time of the year this is for me, because it is Hanukkah time, it is latke time. It's not one of our miserable Jewish holidays where you can't eat anything and everybody smells like bad breath. No, everybody smells like delicious sufganiyot, the jelly donuts, and latkes, and they smell like happiness and joy and candles burning and wonderful things on this Hanukkah holiday. What better joyful time than to talk about the Holocaust? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest in the neighborhood today who has written a book that deals with the Holocaust years, but it deals in a, well, let's just say this story has a happy ending, and it even has some goyim in it. Our guest is Marty Brounstein. Now, he's best known as someone who does public speaking. He's a motivational speaker, and we'll talk about that as well. But he has also written a story that is very close to his heart and his kishkas. It's called Two Among the Righteous Few, a story of courage in the Holocaust. So we're going to have him tell us just enough about the book so that you go out and buy it, because why should you get it all for free? With us on the telephone right now is Marty Brounstein. So first of all, happy Hanukkah and shalom to you, Marty. Hello.
Well, shalom, Rabbi Sol. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, it's a delight to have you on. And mit Mazel, how are you going to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah tomorrow?
I am in Hawaii to celebrate.
Not a bad place to celebrate, yes?
Yes, so having nice warm weather.
Are you making...
Folks in New York are probably cold right now.
It sounds... Please. It is
fun fashion.
But let me... Do you make latkes out of poi out there? Is that what you do?
Yeah, I wonder if they do, yeah. I haven't... poke, I think is another popular thing out here, so we haven't tried that yet.
Do you live in Hawaii, or are you just visiting?
No, just visiting.
Okay.
I ended up having a speaking gig out here, and so when you come this far, might as well stay and enjoy the islands.
Now, let me ask you. I'm always wondering about this, about motivational speakers, about people who try to get other people off their asses to do good things. So what do you tell people that isn't just common sense, that they can't think in their own heads? Why do they need you?
I don't know that they need me, but I tell them what I call as an inspirational story. A story of people who did good. And audiences have been telling me, 9 years into doing this, that this is a story that is very inspiring. It's got positive values. And so they thank me for this. And they keep showing it even more in the times we live in that are not always the most positive. We see this divisiveness in our country.
True.
So this is what this story does. It moves people.
But wait a minute.
It emotionally connects to them.
But weren't you doing this kind of speaking stuff before you started telling this particular story? What were you doing prior to 9 years ago?
Yes, I was running a management consulting business.
So again, consulting. What were you telling people to do? How do you consult? What were you consulting on?
Yes, I was teaching them skills about leadership and customer service and how to manage performance and get the best out of people in their performance.
So what are some ideas? What are ideas for, in other words, I can imagine in my head, if I were running a store and a customer comes in and they're not very nice, you don't call them an asshole. The customer is not always right, but what do you tell people? Like when you want to help a company do better customer service, what can you tell them that they don't already know?
Well, a lot of it is more often, it's not so much what they do, but how they do it. So how to have those interactions that count when you're talking to the customer, whether it's in person or on the phone, how to follow through, how to make sure that you're responsive when people are leaving you messages. It was things like that in hindsight, people say, well, that's common sense, but common sense is not always common. The kinds of behaviors that people need to do in doing their jobs that get the best out of people that they're working with.
Well, what is something that surprised you in those years before you started telling the motivational story that we'll talk about? In the years when you were just doing business consulting and all of that you would tell your thing and you would be shocked when you would hear stories of, oh, this is how we were doing, this was our corporate culture. What were you just surprised of, like, really? This is how you were operating?
The surprise wasn't so much how people were operating. It's more of when they got, the name of my firm was the Practical Solutions Group.
Okay.
And I was giving them practical tools on how to do things from service and leadership and managing performance and working well in teams. I'll say the pleasant surprise was hearing people when they follow through and applied it to say, wow, it works. I'm getting results. That's the whole idea.
Well, what's a suggestion that you could give for a manager of a team, a work team, to get better work out of them?
One would be when you hold your team meetings, make them so that they're collaborative, that you're involving people and working on things together, rather than meetings that you're just talking at them and just passing on information. That's nearly not a team meeting. Team meetings that get people to work on solving problems, creating plans, brainstorming ideas on how to make something, a process better. That's one tip.
Okay.
That really gets people working better.
That's pretty good. I could see that. And what about like someone who is middle management? What is, like, they're caught between the big boss and then the people that they are, who are reporting to them? What makes a better middle manager?
One is they run their group well, so their boss doesn't have any concerns about how things are going. So they're really on top of what the group has to perform, keeping people focused, keeping them accountable, giving them the right support. Doing that makes the bigger boss not worry about them.
Okay. I mean, again, it does sound like common sense to me. I guess you tailor it, though, to every organization. So you do a little research on the organization. You don't just come out and give this set speech that's the same every time. You have to know.
It was customized when I used to do this. And one of my strengths, I always said, was I know cultures. I learn organizational cultures. And so people often felt, you really understand where we're at. And that was certainly a key of my service.
What's the most toxic culture you ever came up against?
Oh.
You don't have to name names. I'm just saying, like, describe the company and what was so horrible about it.
Yes. It's the leadership at the top that's quick to fly off the handle and get upset when something doesn't go right. You're often seeing in there'll be elements of sexual harassment going on, other forms of maybe racial harassment. Those are the most toxic. Interesting enough, ideally they wouldn't be calling me into those places.
No,
the most extreme ones anyway, because they're not interested in doing something more productive anyway. So, but those cultures are certainly, many of them are out there, unfortunately.
Well, were you ever privy to something where you felt like, oh my God, I should call the police on this, or convince the person that this happened, whether it's a physical abuse or sexual abuse, or this, where it's like, this is almost a 911 call?
Fortunately not. Fortunately, there were none that I would say need immediate emergency police help. But certainly there were things going on in many of the others where, people are crossing the line. They're doing things that ethics become into question. And again, certainly with the sexual harassment, or they're not dealing with these things. More often, the most common thing I saw is managers looking the other way and condoning misconduct. And that's what then starts to build a toxic culture. That's
very interesting. So you kind of, it's so easy for managers to concentrate on just getting the work done and then looking this way and this, if it's not a real terrible problem, we'll let the employee deal with it. But then, it just builds, and it's like a festering boil filled with pus, if you will.
Yes, it would. Yes.
And are you enjoying your lunch?
Performance issues, and they weren't going to address them with the employees who weren't performing well.
No,
it bothers all the rest of the employees in a group as well.
Now, one of the things I didn't mention in your introduction, this is so cool, that you, Marty Brounstein, contributed to the book Communicating Effectively for Dummies. First of all,
that's one of the books I've authored, yes.
I would figure if you want to communicate with someone, it's probably best not to call them a dummy, but leaving that aside, so what's something that you contributed particularly to that Dummies book volume?
That book, among the skills it taught, were how to listen, to really understand where people are coming from, and how to speak in the most positive, clear manner so people understand where you're coming from.
Okay. Did you always have the gift of being very like Bill O'Reilly-ish, kind of clear sentences, talking points, or did you have to develop that?
Certainly those are skills that I developed.
What did you do? How did you do it?
Through education. education, constant self-learning, from reading, studying, to just practice makes perfect, so to speak. Not that I was ever perfect, but the idea that, as you learn and apply and teach others, teaching is a wonderful skill that to really know it, you got to learn it first. And all that helped me develop over the years. And storytelling, which is now what I'm doing full time, but I've learned from others' successes and learning from others, and then sharing the stories of what they do with other people that you work with was always beneficial.
Well, before we get to Two Among the Righteous Few, my last question about the whole motivational and public speaker aspect of your stuff is, how did you get, and what was it like when you got your first gig?
Certainly rewarding. The very first time you get a client who says, yes, come in and deliver your training or other service, very, very rewarding. And as time went on, I was very fortunate because I did that business for 25 plus years. As time went on, I wasn't having to ever work hard to get clients. It's just one built the other, and often say, get good service. 80% of my clients will repeat business. I didn't make them dependent on me, but because the service that they got was top notch for them, when they had another need, they'd call me.
That's pretty great. So then, after 25 years, you decided to, quote, I guess, retire, but you pivoted. So this mazel tov that you make enough that you could live comfortably. But then, was it suddenly, or you thought, you know what? If I don't tell this particular story in a book, it's never going to get out there. I mean, what was that impetus of telling the story of Two Among the Righteous Few?
Well, I always say, one-word answer, serendipity. This was a story I stumbled into by accident on a trip to the Netherlands with my wife now over 10 years ago. Okay. And the book Two Among the Righteous Few is about this Dutch Christian couple named Franz and Mien Weinacher, who during World War II, when their country was under the brutal occupation of Nazi Germany, they got involved when most did not. And in the end, they saved the lives of over 24 Jews from certain death. So I never got to meet Franz and Mien because they're not alive, but I met their 5 children on this trip. And it was truly by serendipity, not something that was planned or expected. And when I got to meet them and learn more about the story of their parents, it's the spark. And it kind of led me to say, I got to go write this book. And the more even bigger surprise is that I've been on this journey now well into 9 years of telling their story in a wide variety of venues, including in Hawaii, which got me here and a great place to visit afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it was very smart of you to be telling the story in Hawaii now, not, say, Greenland, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, again, if someone calls and they want to pay for me to come to Greenland, maybe I would go. But not this time of year, that's for sure.
So you were already, I thought for some reason that you had, there was some personal marital connection.
Well, yes, I also have, and then when audiences go to my public storytelling events, they know just going in, it's in the flyers and it's in the introduction, it has a very meaningful personal connection to this story, which I reveal at the very end, and it tends to blow away people. Oh,
because as you mentioned just before, you went to the Netherlands with your wife, and where did you meet these 5 family people?
They live in kind of a small town areas of southeastern Netherlands.
And you were out to dinner, and
their parents lived is called
Dieden, Holland. But then how did you run into? Were you skiing? What the hell? Or I don't know what you do in Holland. Were you eating chocolate? No.
So if I give I'll give a spoiler alert to your audience here.
Sure.
Of revealing the meaningful personal connection, because it gets at what you're asking.
Oh, okay.
Among the 24 Jews that Franz and Mien Weinacher saved was a young married Jewish couple, and they themselves at the time were a young married couple too. And when this couple was able to be snuck out of Amsterdam and get to the Weinachers in the countryside in the fall of 1943, the wife of this couple had a secret she couldn't keep secret any longer. She was already pregnant.
Oh.
How do you get a baby born to a Jewish woman in Nazi-occupied Holland? And the answer was impossible. But Franz and Mien Weinacher decided they would take on this most impossible dilemma, and they performed a miracle. And they got the baby born, and they kept her and her parents safe till liberation finally came. And that baby I get to call today my wife.
Mazel. So you had no idea. I mean, when you met these people, it didn't even, well, or maybe you kind of were going there to, yeah, I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to, but what you can give away or spoil, as it were, is, I mean, you went over sort of the bones of the book of, okay, these people saved Jews, but give us, how was their experience kind of, was it an Anne Frank thing? Were they hiding in an attic? What did they do?
They were hiding, they were doing two major things to the rescue operation. One was taking people inside their own home, and at the height of this, they had their own four little children. They often had up to 10 Jewish refugees in their own home, but also Franz got connected with a resistance group that led him to then recruit people in his own countryside area and get Jews placed within their home, a rescue network. So he had both things going with his wife being right there with him, supporting all along the way. So it was full of challenges and hassles and dangers that they encountered. Yet over a 2-year period, this couple persisted. This is also what led me to the trip that we ended up having.
Yeah.
My wife obviously knew the Weinackers growing up. They immigrated to the U.S. when she was 14 to Los Angeles, and years go by, and it had been 25 years since she was last back to her original homeland of Poland, and I went for me, the first time in this May 2009 trip. We were more than 2/3, and that was the curiosity that led to the serendipity. I wonder if I can find any of the Weinacker children. She had lost touch.
Right.
And we found them.
Let me ask, did they save any, or do they have artifacts or the things from that era that they were able to keep? Did they show you any sort of, I don't know, Jewish books, any or yellow stars?
Yes, well, one of the things that they gave us and said to me, go ahead and use as I went back to later on build the book, is they gave us this little self-published Dutch book. And they told us that late in Franz's life, a friend of the family sat him down, because they'd been hearing little snippets of stories over the years of the rescue efforts of he and Mean, and said, spit it out. And they gave us that book, and it was like a jigsaw puzzle with some pieces missing, but you got the gist of the story. And that's kind of what began me building this, to see if I can get more foundation into this, and led to the book, Two Among the Righteous Few. So that was one of the things. The other thing, and it goes to the meaning of the book's title, well, the first of the 5 children we met was Franz Weinacker Jr., who lives in the actual house where his parents' rescue activity took place. He showed me a picture, and the picture was the plaque to his parents for the honor of righteous among the nations, where the word righteous comes from. That comes from Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Israel, and this is the honor that goes to the non-Jews who, during the course of the Holocaust, risked their own lives to try to help save the lives of Jews. I understood what that meant. And when he showed me that picture, my wife will say, I haven't been the same since. Something heroic happened with your parents, and that was the spark that said, I got to find out more.
Can I ask, what was the closest? I assume that they're probably in your book, but the closest that they came to getting caught?
They had 2 raids on the house by the Germans. And so that's obviously, and they had other things that they nearly lost their house to one of the Dutch Nazis. Franz nearly got sent off to forced labor. So they had a number of things that kept happening, and the raids come later on that are, very frightening, that they didn't get caught.
How? But here's why: if you've got 8 strangers, let's say, living among your family with the children, and they're, isn't it like Inglourious Bastards? I mean, the guy knows that they're under the floorboards or something. How do they hide? What do they do?
Yes. What's interesting, and this was my wife's father, he was an architect, and when he comes to the Weinacker home, he designed, and then he works with Franz, who got the building materials, this hiding room within their house. They took some open space and built it as it was the size of a small bedroom. Had you never been in the house, it was not detectable. So that's when they would get that pound on the door, because they also had pretzel raids sometimes that they practiced, get into the hiding room. Thank goodness for that hiding room. Had they not had that, they would have been caught. And so that was the real key to getting undetected, get in there, and when the Germans came in and they're pounding on floors and walls and all that, everybody sitting in the hiding room just stays quiet, and time they passed.
And then you said there were 2 such raids that they did.
Yes.
Now, how did, here's what I don't understand. I mean, they're the Nazis, so they threatened to put the guy in what labor camp, you said? How did that suddenly?
He almost got called. It was common through the countries that Germans occupied, and the Netherlands is right next door, to send. The Germans had a labor shortage during the war. Their people would be doing the jobs. They're off hammering all the concentration camps and fighting in World War II. So what was called forced labor, meaning you got notice, go work in Germany. And so that was not a job you wanted.
Right.
And certainly when the bombings of the Allies in Germany, many people died in those things. So later in the war, Franz got notice, it's your turn to go report to work in Germany. It was an obstacle he had to work through. Luckily, he didn't end up going. But
well, what I don't understand is the Nazis were so efficient. I would imagine the second they show up at the door, they say, okay, we need you working in Germany, come with us now. How did he not have to do that? How did he not have to go?
Yeah, so you get the summons, it's like a piece of mail comes to summons, you got to go. And first step is your report for medical evaluation. And through different sources he had helping him, he found the right doctor who would verify that he had this terrible illness. So obviously Germans don't want you if you're sick or, have some terrible disease going on. So he came up with some disease, an illness that kept him from being sent off to Germany.
So when the families were being hidden by this, did they ever see daylight, or is it literally they had to be indoors for 2 straight years?
They did see daylight. You're spending most of your day indoors, just kind of sitting around, and they didn't have a lot of books there. You read the Bible, you did your little exercise, then you help with chores around the house. At night, thank goodness they're in the countryside, so it would have been different in the city where you would definitely been more confined. They could go outside a bit, get some fresh air, as long as you stay close to the house. And at night, because your countryside is not neighbors on neighbors, you could get a little bit of air and do that. And that's kind of what they did. You could say it's a boring existence. The food was not a wide variety either, and so, but it beat the alternative, that's for sure. Actually,
considering it was Holland during the war, were there rations? What was it like in 44, 45, when even families that were just non-Jewish regular families probably had to be pretty careful with what they were eating just to have enough to eat? Am I right about this or what?
Absolutely, and you just brought up the last year of the war, and it was the last winter of the war in Holland. Holland doesn't get liberated until near the end of the war, unlike other countries in Western Europe that were liberated fall of 44. And in the last winter of the war for the western portion of the country, a major strike had happened by the railway workers, and then the Germans said, fine, go off. And that stopped then shipments of food and other supplies going to the major cities in the west, like Amsterdam and the capital city, The Hague. And it led to the hunger winter, where that winter 20,000 people starved to death because food wasn't coming in there anymore. And even prior to that, people had these ration cards that the Germans imposed on them for buying their food and supplies. So it was rough on the non-Jewish Dutch throughout the war.
So how did they?
Of Germany.
Well, but then you go again. So you've got a family with 4 children, right? And the mother, the father, non-Jewish, taking in half a dozen Jews at any given time. Where the hell did the food come from?
Yes, good question. 2 sources. One, countryside helped. So there was a little bit more food, and there's some farmers there that still had supplies, cattle and chicken and things like that, which was scarce in the rest of the country. Franz also had a local government official, Dutch guy then, who also, one of his jobs was to tax farmers, and he would tax them a little less if they left behind some food. And then he would call Franz and come over here and we can get some more food supplies. And through that, they got by. That they could feed the people, and of course, he was placing people in other people's homes who, it was not easy, but there was always enough food to be fed. Just you're eating a lot of potatoes and things like that, not a lot of variety of food. Every now and then, maybe you're having a chicken, and every now and then, some kind of meat, because Franz had access to farmers where he could get these things from. But they got by. So it wasn't terrible. Countryside was much better than in any of the major cities.
Now, let me ask, when you met these children and these family members many years later, when you went off like 10 years ago to Holland, how do they feel? How do they feel about Germany and Austria? Do they go there? Do they realize it was 3 generations and forgive or forget? Or, I mean, would they never set foot in a country like that? How do they feel about it?
Yeah, they themselves, I don't know that if I asked the Weinacher's children, who are in their 60s and 70s, that question. Some of them have traveled and have gone into Germany, and it's no big deal today.
Right.
Now, we go back not too long ago, and some will say it's still there in Holland today among the Dutch, because the Dutch suffered terribly under German occupation. There's a joke that they say in the Netherlands, which is when a tourist or visitor comes to the country and they're lost, you be friendly, you give them directions. If the person happens to be from Germany, make sure you give them the wrong directions.
So, that's Dutch comedy right there.
After the war, the Dutch had a very strong anti-German sentiment.
Well, yeah.
Less so probably you'd see today as time goes on, but they certainly remember the scars of that war very much. And when my first trip, and I've been 4 times now, just to see the memory of the war there that you don't see in the United States really struck me. They suffered.
Wow. Okay. I mean,
3/4 of Jews perished on top of that. So the Holocaust hit there very hard.
It's kind of like, the English, let's say. I mean, they suffered during World War II in a way that even America can't fathom.
Exactly.
There was no blitz here, Yeah.
The war wasn't fought on our soil, so Americans often don't recognize how the World War II, still today, we're going to be coming next year, right around the corner, the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II in Europe. And you see it when you go into many of the European countries. I've certainly been in the Western European ones. England, you mentioned. I've been in Holland. I've been in Belgium. I've been in France. The war's impact was tremendous on what people went through.
Well, contributing to the memory of what people went through during those years, the World War II years and the Holocaust, is Marty Brounstein's book. It's called Two Among the Righteous Few, a story of courage in the Holocaust. Now, how, since you've whet everybody's appetites now, and dried it too, how do people get your book?
They can order it through Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, publishers, Durant's Publishing, or they go to my website. They can order it there and leave me messages. And my website is www.martybrounstein.com, and Brounstein is Brounstein.
Brounstein, MartyBrounstein.com is your website. That's how you can get a copy of Two Among the Righteous Few. And I assume at the website people want to book you as a speaker to come and tell more of this story, in person. That's also the place they can go in and do that too.
Absolutely. They can contact me there. Phone number is there. Yes, I go far and wide with this. That it was unexpected. I'm home base is San Francisco Bay Area. I've been in 15 other metropolitan areas.
He's been everywhere, man.
Where you are, where we had a chance to meet. So
yeah.
It's been amazing how supporters and other people tell me, you got to keep telling this story.
Now, last question for you, Marty, before I let you go. I'm moving away from the book and the story on that, but you're a Jewish fella.
Yes, I am.
Are you religious, non-religious, secular? Where do you fall on the spectrum of Judaica?
I'm a fairly practicing Jew.
Oh, okay.
Belong to a conservative synagogue, especially because of my wife, who's very strong Jewish, religious as well as just culturally. So I'm fortunate for that. So yes, Judaism is part of my life. So
let me ask you, what gets you through November, December, when all of America starts to look like, Christmas in Dollywood sort of thing, where, you feel your Jewishness in a way that you don't feel it the other 10 months of the year? Well, what gets you through?
Yeah, I just don't pay a lot of attention to it. Luckily, in a way, I'm not in a relationship where the person has strong Christian leanings and would want to do all those things. I'm with a Jewish woman the minute she hears Christmas music, she'd rather turn to another station on the radio. So I don't pay a lot of attention to it. And I wish well for people. Merry Christmas to you and happy holidays and all of that. So
Festivus, yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so I recognize I'm a minority in this country, but I don't have to have my face rubbed in it, and so I keep away from that. I can remember more to part of what your question is. As a kid in schools, where I was certainly one of the few Jews around, then it was much harder to kind of not pay attention to, because it was, they're singing Christmas music in the schools and all of that, and the assemblies, and that to me was a little bit too invasive. But luckily, as an adult today, what I do in my life, fine. For me, Christmas is there a good Chinese buffet around. Let's see if we can go that one.
Spoken like a real Jew. Is the Chinese open on Christmas Day? That's the way. So happy to be talking to Marty Brounstein. Remember that you can get his book, Two Among the Righteous Few, a story of courage in the Holocaust. You can get it at Amazon and all the usual places, as well as at his website, Marty A. Brounstein, Brounstein, MartyABrounstein.com, which is also how you can book him to come and tell the story in front of your group. Do you ever do any of your old, which is a business communication kind of motivational stuff?
Not anymore. I wound that down. There was a few years where it was overlapping as I was on the journey with Two Among the Righteous Few, and eventually I said, it's just been too much. Wound that down, said goodbye to my clients, and actually my clients, many of them have been supporters, and I actually sometimes bring this into workplaces. The workshop with the theme, Make a Positive Difference, which the story teaches so well. So that's worked out very well for me that way.
Well, it has worked out marvelously for us to have you on Dave's Gone By on this show. It just remains for me to wish you a most happy and glowing and joyous Hanukkah to you and your family, Marty Brounstein, and much continued success telling this story and all the other stories that you want to tell. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shalom, shalom, and happy Hanukkah. Bye-bye now. Shalom.